Up until 2 years ago, I didn't have a penny to my name. I barely made it to the end of the month until I hit rock bottom. With more than 20,000 euros in debt, today I find myself with my debts paid off and over 10,000 euros in savings. So what made the difference? What have I managed to understand now that I couldn't understand before? It's not about the amount of money that comes into your house, but how you manage it. Because we achieved all these results with normal salaries. I have a salary of 1,500 euros per month. My wife works part-time and has a salary of 1,000 euros per month. In the video of my story, I told you about how I ended up in the disastrous situation of having more than 20,000 euros in debt. And today in this video, I have decided to tell my entire journey, what happened to me. I will also tell you about the day they froze my bank account. Now what I ask of you is to leave me a supportive like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet, to help me grow in this YouTube adventure of mine. First of all, I want to tell you what were the 3 books that changed my mindset. So it made me realize that I had a relationship with money like a pyromaniac. Out of fear that the money would run out, I spent it as quickly as possible. Then, the second lesson I learned from these books was to budget. I had no money because I didn't manage them until the moment I started budgeting. It was the first thing that allowed me to turn around and overturn my situation. I took a nice Excel sheet and created a forecast of all the income and expenses I had every month. And this for the whole year. Now I'll briefly show you on my computer how I did it. Here is my nice folder of the 2019 family budget, because indeed in 2019 I started doing this budget. Here I have put the income, so our salaries, all the income we had, the variable expenses. Then we have the fixed expenses, mortgage, the bills, the condominium expenses, the kindergarten of Unio. The second thing I learned that really made a difference was starting to keep track of all the expenses I had day by day. I know it might seem absurd, but I can assure you that for me it was a godsend. It was truly miraculous. I started doing it thanks to a fantastic tool, Kakebo, which is the agenda for keeping household accounts. Then another thing I learned to do that I've never done in my life is dedicate time specifically to managing my money. Now every Saturday morning or afternoon, I dedicate myself to money management, so I take my Kakebo. I go to see a little bit where we have spent the money. I do the totals and everything else. Now I'll briefly show you how the perfect Kakebo works. So this is our 2021 Kakebo. We go to mark all the expenses day by day. We mark all our income and our expenses. Now, how does the Kakebo month income fixed expenses work briefly? Here we have the goals, then how much you have available for the current month. Then here we have all the days of the week. And it's all divided into categories. So expenses for basic needs, supermarkets, pharmacies, transportation, optional culture and leisure, and then the unexpected extras. At the end of the month, you add it all up, just to have 100% awareness of our situation. That is, where our money goes, in which categories, where we spend the most, where we can cut back. This has been one of the tools that absolutely helped me the most in this situation. I'll link to it in the video description for you to buy on Amazon. So these are really the first steps I took to change my financial situation. Then later, I'll explain to you in detail all the things I've done to save on monthly expenses and therefore to put away money consistently every month. At the beginning of 2019, I found my 40-hour per week job, so 1,500 euros per month and more. For the first year, I went to do extra work in a restaurant. It was tough, guys, but it was necessary to start getting out of that difficult situation. Because anyway, we had a lot of money that we owed, even to the condominium. We offered to clean the stairs of the condominium, which we still do today. And I'm not ashamed, because this allowed me to eliminate 200 euros of monthly condominium expenses. After the summer of 2019, I decided that I wanted to stop working on weekends, and so I found a second job to do from home. Thanks to this, we gradually started to put away some money. Contingency fund, emergency fund. I'll talk about this shortly. At the beginning of 2020, I quit smoking. Those 100 euros, I immediately decided to start putting them away to create what was my contingency fund. Because one of the problems I had before was that whenever I had an unexpected expense, a somewhat large expense, we would immediately go into crisis. We were always there on the brink of bankruptcy. And this thing didn't let me be at peace. I was always stressed, I was unhappy, I was worried. This thing wore me down a lot. It's not like I ended up having 10,000 euros in savings just like that. But I started small, and this is the most shocking thing I've learned. Because I thought that to put away money, to have savings, I had to earn a lot, I had to earn more, I had to make money. And in fact, for a while I worked in that sense, but I didn't achieve that result. Paradoxically, I achieved it. When I did a very normal job as an employee, I changed my mindset and started doing different things. One day I found myself with a blocked bank account. Blocked, I didn't know where it came from, I couldn't withdraw, I couldn't do anything. We were in total panic. We didn't even know the reason why our account was blocked. Then, after a few days, we managed to find out why, and it was 1,000 euros. What was my luck? That we had started to create a fund for contingencies. Within a few days, we were able to make the transfer, settle this thing, and unlock the situation. And this is what I learned, to constantly put away money for contingencies, because there are always contingencies. How I distributed things, I started to create different funds. So the first thing is that the contingency fund is another bank account, so it's not the account I use. For the expenses of each month, consistently, we put 500 euros a month. Our luck was that towards the summer of 2020, Steph took the payout. Now what we did, we put them away. I mean, if it had been earlier, if it had been 2 years ago, we had already thought about how to spend that money. Instead, now we think about the money we can save. We could have easily bought the new television, changed the dishwasher which was broken anyway, and burned that money. And yet, no. No, thanks to these books I've read, I've learned that you need to have an emergency fund. Emergencies. What does catastrophe mean? I mean, you lose your job. You're on wage supplementation. They don't pay the wage supplementation for 1, 2, 3, 4 months. What do? If you don't have any money saved, you're in deep trouble.
The first thing I did with the severance pay was to create this emergency fund of 3,000 euros.
I never touched those. They are really for desperate situations. Then I started to create a savings plan of 50 euros a month. I'm not an expert in personal finance or investments, so I'm also learning, but this allows me to create something for our future and for the future of my children. In fact, we now have an account for investments, an account for contingencies, and an account for the emergency fund. And guys, all this with 2 very normal salaries. Another thing I learned to do was forced saving. Because I couldn't save money before. Because I used to spend first, and if I had any left, I saved, and in fact I never had any left, and I didn't save anything. Now, the very first thing I do when I get my paycheck is to make a transfer. To the contingency account, to the emergency account, to investments, whatever I need to do. Now, we've come to cutting expenses. What have you cut? How did I manage to save all this money? To stop thinking in installments. What I used to do is wanting to buy a life that I couldn't afford by buying it in installments.
So the
First thing I told you. I quit smoking, so 100 euros a month that I was spending. Then I stopped paying for the cell phones, which were 30 a month, plus another 15, so another 45 euros saved per month. Another important thing I did was to stop drinking coffee. I also did a 30-day no caffeine challenge. After that challenge, I quit drinking coffee at work. 20 euros a month, but 20 euros added to the previous 145, we're at 165 euros. I started to drive slowly. Now I have a 35-kilometer commute to work. I started to go slow, so in the morning, even when I return, it's 56 miles at H maximum. Yes, okay, I may seem like an old man, but I went from spending 130 euros a month to now spending 80, so that's another 50 euros saved each month. Another very interesting thing was the purchase of a water faucet, so we stopped buying bottled water. We are really finding it good. Then another thing we did was to limit our outings a bit. So dinners out, pizza, kebab, once a month we allow ourselves, without takeaway limits, a dinner. However, we don't do it every week. Something we maybe did before, and this really made us spend quite a bit of money. So you see, these are all small expenses that added together, we get to over 250 euros a month that I was able to take and put away. I understood what it is.
Culture of
Savings. Then really there are many techniques to save. Enrico, I really recommend you to save because Francesco gives many pieces of advice. I can only tell you that we, thanks to this book, have gone from having over 2,000 euros of expenses per month to just over 1,500 euros per month. It's a lot. It was something that I couldn't even imagine until 2 years ago. Another thing we have learned to do is to eliminate all those unnecessary expenses. Now, when I need to buy something, I ask myself, do I really need this thing or is it just a whim? I still have a lot to learn and a long way to go. However, from this perspective, we have certainly made progress. And so the fact of going backwards, not always living with more things, because you desire the most stunning car, house and television, and you always need to work more, to always bust your ass, to be able to support that lifestyle, which is a lifestyle you can't afford. And what's the problem? That rather than having that lifestyle, we make installments. Why? Why do I want to have the cool 800 euro phone when at the end of the day I can't afford it?
well, guys.
Now I know. This video was a bit long. I really hope that this video can be of help to you. Maybe if you're in a tough situation, if you can't save, if you barely make it to the end of the month, I simply ask you to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment and leave me a like to help me in this dream of living off videos and earning through YouTube. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart and we'll see each other in the next video.